Alright, in this next example, we have coefficients on every variable that are not 1. And so we really cannot avoid creating fractions in this example. So we're just going to deal with it. So we're going to choose a variable to solve for. Again, I have 4 to choose from. I typically don't like to have 3's in my denominators for fractions. I don't mind the 2 and the 4. I'm gonna go with the 2 because it's a smaller number. Usually halves are easier to work with. So we're going to start off by solving that first equation for y. Alright, so we're going to take 3x minus 2y equals -5. To get the y by itself, I first have to get rid of the 3x. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. Again, remember the 5 and the 3x are unlike terms. Those drop out. I get minus 2y equals -5 minus 3x. Then we're going to solve for y, so I'm going to divide both sides by -2. And remember, if I divide this right side by -2, it distributes to both terms. So I can just divide every term by -2. The -2's cancel here. I'm left with a y. Here a double negative is a positive, so that's 5/2. And here another double negative makes for a positive, so we'll put a plus 3/2 x. Okay, now I'm going to keep it in fraction form. You could use the decimal form, but it's not really necessary to change it here. What we are going to do is take this new expression and substitute it into the y in the other equation. Okay, so I'm going to go with, I'm going to start with 4x minus 3. Now the y is going to be, I'm going to use a set of parentheses there, equals -8. And in place of the y, we're going to use the new y, which is this purple stuff with the fractions. 5/2 plus 3/2 x. Okay, now we're going to distribute. And when we distribute here, you have to distribute the entire -3. Okay, so we're going to have 4x minus, now the 3 distributes and only multiplies the top. Remember, this is like 3 over 1. 3 goes to the top, 1 goes to the bottom. So this becomes a -15 over 2. -3 times +3 here will be a -9 over 2, and the x stays. Okay. Now, a quick way to get rid of these fractions, we've talked about this in the past, is to multiply both sides of the equation by the least common denominator. In our case, the least common denominator is 2. So if I multiply every term by a 2 at this point, both sides of the equation, we can eliminate the 2's, right? These 2's will cancel, these 2's will cancel, and the other 2's have to stay in place. So this will become 8x minus 15 minus 9x equals -16. Right? And so we're going to combine like terms. 8x minus 9x is a -x, -1. Still have the -15 and the -16. I'm going to add 15 to both sides. Get -x is equal to -1. And if I divide both sides by the -1, I will get a +1 for x. Okay? And so now I take, remember, we need the y value. So I take that 1, substitute it back into one of the original two equations, and solve for y. So I'll do that next. We'll take the 1, I'll just go to the top equation just because the numbers are smaller, but I don't really have a preference there other than that. 3 times the x minus 2y equals negative 5. The x becomes the 1. Get this so you can see. And then we just simplify and solve. 3 minus 2y equals negative 5. I'm going to subtract the 3 from both sides. Negative 2y equals negative 8. And divide out the negative 2. And y will equal 4. And so our final answer here, again, is the ordered pair, including both the 1 for the x and the 4 for the y. 1 comma 4 will be our final solution.